As a healer in the Emperor's service, I learned to preserve lives at all costs. Yet today, I find myself choosing fates, survival for some, transformation into mindless servitors for others, and the rare gift of a swift end for a few. But doubt crept in when my commander started hauling the wounded up to the higher levels. None of them ever descended again. What fate awaits when your name lands on that relocation roster, revealing that in this bleak void of distant millennia, healing and agony blur into one indistinguishable horror? The atmosphere reeks of defeat long before the cries echo through the halls. I still recall the moment my orders came for Vexus 4. They bore the official stamp from the Medici Division overseeing my duties at Field Hospital Tertius, deep in the southern war front. Back then, a surge of honor swelled in me. The document shook slightly in my grip, a holy charge from the God Emperor. These days, it mocks my former innocence, tucked away and creased under the sparse padding of my bunk. Our Medici shuttle touched down amid a hail of shellfire. Crimson alert lights bathed the scene in gore-like hues as I stepped out alongside 19 fellow medics. Just 7 of us endure now. The rest fell to plagues, fatigue, or stray shells punching through what we called fortified shelter. The Emperor safeguards us, though his favor grows ever more discerning as this endless conflict drags on. Quote, Sister Hospitalier's words slice into my thoughts. Inbound. 3 more shuttles. Activate overload measures. I dip my head in response, grabbing my operative smock. It's rigid from crusted gore that no amount of scrubbing erases completely. Supplies are far too vital for thorough hygiene. Last week brought another slash to our water allowances. The odor clings to my skin like a second flesh. What used to be a Grand Civic Hall's open courtyard now serves as our operating arena, its stone pillars upholding a vaulted roof adorned with time-worn frescoes of the Emperor's stellar triumphs. Those celestial victories now gaze upon endless lines of maimed soldiers sprawled on cots, some groaning in pain, others deathly still. Servitors shuffle among them, doling out rudimentary aid with the emotionless precision of the half-alive. I verify their code each dawn, yet they execute commands with the unerring loyalty of devices built for one purpose alone. Quote 2. Sister Deborah notes, even though I've memorized every detail. Alpha for command staff and experts, Beta for fighters fit to rejoin the line in 3 rotations, Gamma for rank-and-file troopers needing major rebuilds, Omega for the dying and those with irreparable neural damage. She skips Epsilon outright, the candidates for servitor repurposing, their frames still viable, but psyches shattered past mending. It occurs far more frequently than reports suggest. The cogitator arrays crave new compute cores. The facility demands additional soulless laborers. Adeptus Mechanicus adepts drop by every 7 days, picking from our Epsilon-tagged unfortunates with the cold scrutiny of vendors eyeing produce stalls. At times, I sense their gazes lingering on me too, evaluating my own potential as I labor. The intake doors burst wide. The initial influx rolls in, borne by servitors whose robes gleam slick with spilled life essence from strangers. Blast lacerations, acid scorching. One trooper, robbed of both limbs, wails for a maternal figure from a far-off planet he'll never reclaim. I approach the nearest litter, assessing the injuries with honed indifference. Quote Va4. A murmur brushes close to my side. I pivot to face orderly Thade, his complexion pale as dust. Quote 5. The upper levels. I mask the quiver in my fingers with a curt bob of agreement. Whispers about those tears stay hushed. The elevators demand elite clearances, and ascendants seldom re-emerge into our crimson-drenched realm. Faint sounds drift down now and then, gears whirring, sporadic howls that differ from the daily chorus of torment. Quote 6. I inquire, keeping my tone steady against the icy dread coiling in my torso. Quote 7. Thade breathes, the title laden with foreboding. Quote Dorad. I've never ventured beyond 3. Any reason given? He shakes his head, retreating as though my doom could infect him. Just that your work on synaptic repair caught notice. Intriguing. they called it. That project, my secret probes into unorthodox synapse-binding methods, which I believed utterly concealed, I'd proceeded cautiously, sourcing only from Omega-designated specimens. Quote 11. I'd rationalized, granting meaning to their endings. But eyes had tracked me. Observers lurked unseen. A fresh arrival wheels into view, snapping me to the now, barely an adult. His carapace plating all but incinerated, shards lodged on his chest, gleams the insignia marking him as Trooper Danik Vel of the 114th Cadon, just shy of 20 standard years old. His gaze meets mine, alert even through wounds that ought to have ended him long ago. "Will I pull through, sir?" he inquires, crimson foam gathering at his lips. I render my initial triage judgment of the shift, grabbing the data slate clipped to my belt. Alpha, Beta, Gamma, Omega, or Epsilon. Survival, postponed demise, reconfiguration, or erasure. My digits pause above the display while I ponder the impending call to the upper decks. What's unfolding on level 8? Why has a Magos biologist taken notice of my forbidden tinkering? Maybe I ought to query the trooper on his wishes. Would he opt for a straightforward end here on the slab, or gamble on transformation into an abomination? Yet the truth is plain. In the Imperium of man, desires hold no sway. Duty endures until it falters. Then duty twists into fresh forms. I select the classification on my slate and signal the idling servitors. They cart the trooper off, his stare holding mine until the surgery bay panels seal behind him. I've sealed his fate, for better or worse. Often, the line blurs to nothing. 3 additional shuttles, countless more verdicts, and then the heights above beckon. The Emperor shields, they assure us. But surveying the gore-drenched corridors of Field Hospital Turte, I can't shake the question of who shields us from the Emperor's own agents. The influx crashes in relentless surges, a scarlet flood battering our woefully under-equipped med bays. Every shuttle hauls 50, at times 60 shattered forms. Soldiers who'd abandoned their homeworlds for the Astra Militarum ranks, now mere howling flesh sprawled on stretchers. We handle them like cogs in a relentless machine. Sister Deborah drifts through the injured, delivering the Emperor's grace through syringe. For many, it's numbing agents to dull the agony. For those I tag as Omega particularly, it's a rapid toxin to end their torment. She accepts my labels without a murmur. The regime craves obedience, not empathy. Medica Vale, she signals, pointing to a stretcher bearing a female colonel, out cold. Top priority Alpha. I hasten to the commander's side, observing the sealed stump in place of her right arm. Laser weapon, extreme output. The injury's precise, at least curbing sepsis chances. She'll endure, even if frontline service is over. A cybernetic graft might follow, should her status justify the cost. I flag her for urgent operation and proceed to the following case. Time dissolves into a fog of gore and cries. My operative smock weighs more with each saturation of vital fluids. Servitors swab the decks at intervals, yet they lag behind the endless seepage from our stations. The stone underfoot bears indelible iron-hued blotches that scrubbing will never erase. A novice healer draws near, his garb mostly spotless. He must have shipped in on a recent convoy. "Sir," he starts, tone unsteady, "I've got a case of severe head injury. Protocols call for Omega, yet his life signs hold steady." I trail him to a stretcher with a guardsman lying utterly motionless. A blade-like force has cleaved away the crown of his cranium, bearing the throbbing neural tissue below. Still, his torso heaves and sinks with clockwork precision, inhalation every 4 seconds, exact as machinery. "Examine his eyes," I direct the novice. The guardsman's lids are parted, stare vacant and unwavering toward the overhead. Zero dilation to light as my palm sweeps across, no flinch to pressure when my digit digs into his breastbone. Quote, 18. I clarify. Quote 19. The junior pales at the implication. Servitor repurposing. To quote 20. Quote 21. I log the code on my device, then append quote 22. The fledgling healer dips his head rigidly and withdraws. I speculate how soon until he yields to the grind or shatters beneath it. The fractured ones typically ascend to the upper tiers. We steer clear of tails on their aftermath. With the final wounded sorted, my looming summons sharpens in focus. Level 8, Realm of Magos Biologist Hikarion. Rumors swirl from fellow healers about his advent 6 months back, flanked by a squad of Skitari guards and esoteric gear requiring total isolation lockdown for the high levels. The sanctioned line was cutting-edge labs to boost survival odds, but our stats stayed flat, while vanishings to the peaks multiplied by 10. Quote 23. Sister Devra reports, her inflection hinting at unease. There's an odd strain in the air. The orderly named Thad requested that I jog your memory regarding your scheduled meeting. Surprisingly, even she appears rattled by the call I've received. Sister Deborah, capable of ending a dozen lives without so much as a flicker in her demeanor. Appreciate it, sister. I strip off my bloodied apron and gloves, tossing them into the recycling chute. Should I fail to come back, make certain my research files get sent to Medicare Central on Androsia Prime. Her gaze locks with mine, and for the first time, a hint of genuine worry cracks through her typically stoic expression. The Emperor shields the healers. The Emperor requires duty. I amend her words softly. Safeguarding comes with no promises. I navigate the main hallway of the hospital, skirting chambers packed with the injured and the perishing. The atmosphere sharpens, becoming markedly purer as I near the secure elevators in the structure's heart. Tuari sentries stand watch at the portal, their cybernetic gazes locking onto me with the intensity of hunters closing in. Medicare Karen Vale, I declare. Called by Magos Biologist Hikarion. Floor 8. One sentry advances, interfacing with my ID implant via a tool embedded in his limb. Moments later, he gives a curt approval and moves out of the way. The elevator panels part with a hydraulic sigh that echoes like a dying exhale. I enter. No panels or selectors in sight. The car already senses my destination. As the panels seal, blocking out the grim routine of my everyday world, I ponder which torment is more bearable, the familiar fiend or the unknown horror lurking higher up. The elevator rises, carrying my anxiety with it. What's unfolding on level 8? How has my work caught such notice? And worst of all, why does this ascent feel like a plunge straight into the core of some forbidden abyss? The panels will part any second now. No matter what lurks ahead, I steel myself. I am Medicare Karen Vale. I've rendered countless verdicts on survival and demise. I've sorted humans like mere beasts, sealing their destinies with a simple command. Now, another will judge my worth. The elevator decelerates, halts, and the panels retract. The shift hits like a jolt. No more gore-drenched passages or agonized cries. Level 8 shines with sleek alloy and sanitized composites. The atmosphere bites with the tang of harsh chemical cleansers, not the usual fog of rot and contagion. The lights blaze in stark white, unlike the subdued, energy-stingy glows below. A servitor greets me, far more refined than the stumbling ones in my operating suite. This model holds itself upright, its organic remnants mostly hidden under blood-red Mechanicus armor. Just the eyes peek out, unnervingly sharp for a construct devoid of independent thought. Medicare Karen Vale, it intones, its synthetic vocalizer mimicking human cadence. Proceed. I comply, observing the lack of staff as we traverse spotless passages. No sufferers here. No healers dashing to procedures. The quiet presses down after endless months of wails and barked commands. Quote 24. I venture, curiosity overriding my unease. Quote 25. The servitor replies evenly, without pause or glance back. Quote 26. The word choice icy fingers my spine. We glide by multiple locked portals etched with undecipherable Mechanicus runes. From a slightly ajar one, I catch a view of arrays of diagnostic arrays encircling what looks like a gestation vat. The form suspended inside is roughly human-shaped, yet warped in manners that resist simple description. I look away sharply and hurry my steps. The servitor halts at a pair of elaborate portals bearing the emblem of the Magos Biologist Guild. Advance, it orders, then pivots and departs, stranding me at the entry. I pause briefly before applying my hand to the sensor pad. The portals glide apart, exposing a space that evokes a true workshop, more than any clinic I've known. Magos Biologus Hikarion looms with his back turned, hunched over a console where a living mass throbs under his attentions. He's augmented beyond humanity, his frame bulked and twisted by countless enhancements. Mechadendrites snake from his spine like a cyber spider's limbs, each ending in precise tools. Medicare Veil, he notes without facing me. The words issue from a vox emitter, not organic cords. Your presence aligns perfectly. I've finished the initial assessment of your most recent case. My most recent case? I repeat, puzzled. The Cadian guardsman Danik Vel. One of his mechadendrites waves toward a connected room where through a transparent barrier I spot the youth I'd evaluated before. He rests awake on a diagnostic slab, bonds securing his body, stare filled with raw fear. A prime candidate. Your records indicated viability for the Epsilon protocol. But you routed him to Alpha category. Gruesome details swirl in my mind, sending a chill through my veins. I'd flagged Trooper Vale for urgent care, definitely not for turning into a servitor. The fact that the Magos is aware of this and has bypassed my orders points to a depth of surveillance I never suspected. His wounds were grave, yet fixable, I reply with caution. He showed complete mental acuity and might have gotten back to the front lines in time. Maybe Hikarion pivots at last, unveiling a visage that's barely more than a metallic facade, red lights blazing in place of eyes. Or maybe you've spotted traits in him that echo your unsanctioned studies. There's the real motive behind calling me here. My work focused on enhancing neural recovery methods, I clarify, fighting to hold my tone even, all to rescue those who'd be doomed otherwise. True enough, Hikarion advances with the eerie accuracy of finely tuned gears. Your techniques stray from tradition, yet they prove their worth. The issue isn't about results, Medic Veal, but about permission. Who authorized you to tweak the accepted procedures? The query lingers like a verdict, loaded and incriminating. In the Mechanicus's view, unchecked creativity amounts to tech heresy. No one, I confess. I proceeded alone, drawing from trends I noted in how brains react to injury. Still, Hikarion presses on, pacing around me deliberately. Your track record for safeguarding mental processes outpaces norms by 37%. That hints at either exceptional talent or risky straying from sanctioned paths. I stay quiet, unsure if this is judgment or assessment. Prove it, he demands abruptly. Apply your approach to the trooper. His damage features major neural harm that official methods would call beyond repair. So it's an exam, but of what sort? Do they want me to validate my skills, or are they handing me the noose for heresy charges? I'll need particular tools, I respond, stalling. Neural scanning devices, healing agents derived from the patient's own cells. Everything's on hand, Hikarion cuts in, motioning to the lab's vast setup of gear, far better than the makeshift stuff you've relied on for your secret trials. He sees it all. My after-hours sessions in that abandoned storeroom I turned into a hidden workspace. The specimens from dying cases I gathered, the tweaks to regular med servitors to help out. Now I've got no choice but to showcase my methods and pray they value me alive over executed. All right, I concede, approaching the bench. I'll need a helper versed in the machinery. I'll watch and step in where required, Hikarion declares. Proceed. With that, I start, sharply conscious that I'm battling for my survival just as fiercely as for Trooper Vale's. I head to the connected room, where young Caden rests bound to the slab. His gaze flares with awareness as I approach. Medic? He breathes out. What's going on? They told me it was elite care, but this feels off. Steady yourself, Trooper, I direct, scanning the readouts and circling his cot. You've got heavy neural injuries. I'll try a trial run to mend them. But I'm okay, he objects, tugging at the bonds. My thoughts are sharp. I recall it all. I review the vital signs, then scrutinize the trooper more intently. His eyes respond properly to light. He speaks rationally, yet the scans show deep scars across his front and side brain regions that ought to cripple advanced thinking. Either the records or his state, likely both, have been doctored. I shoot a look at the viewing pane, where Magos Hikarion observes without emotion. This goes beyond checking my healing skills. It's probing my allegiance, my morals, my readiness to join in whatever unfolds on level 8. The displays show critical neural harm, I announce, volume pitched for the mics to catch. Then, I bend near the trooper, voice dropping to a hush. Quote 27. His eyes flicker briefly, but he offers a tiny acknowledgement with his head. I pull back and launch into the process, threading a fine line between showing my approach authentically and shielding the obviously unharmed soldier from pointless harm. I position neural boosters at key spots on his head, tuned to mimic therapy signals without unleashing the full force, suited only for real damage. Your style breaks convention, Hikarian observes via the Vox link. You're aiming at the reticular activating system instead of the harmed areas outright. The RAS serves as the entry to awareness, I respond, slipping into the routine of clinical teaching. Through targeted pulses, it prompts the mind to redirect neural. The mind cleverly reroutes signals past the injured zones. It essentially retrains itself to sidestep the harm. Intriguing, the Magos replies, and I pick up a hint of real curiosity in his synthetic tone. We press on for almost an hour. I execute a precise dance of honest display and subtle misdirection. All the while, Trooper holds an impressive level of calm, reacting to prompts just as someone healing from brain damage ought to, neither rushing nor dragging. At last, I pull away from the platform. The opening stage has wrapped up. Plasticity in the neurons is now activated. Next, the organ needs space to forge fresh connections. I suggest a rest interval of 6 hours prior to advancing to the subsequent treatment step. Hikarian remains quiet for an extended pause, his mechanical gaze scanning the displays. Your methods hold potential, he declares at length. They match some experimental guidelines originating from Mars, which we've only lately adopted on site. His words trigger a surge of ease in me, swiftly chased by doubt. If my off-the-books experiments happen to echo sanctioned Adeptus Mechanicus protocols, what explains the clandestine approach? What justifies this intricate evaluation? I'm glad to learn that, I reply with measured care. My aim is simply to enhance devotion to the Emperor and rescue those who could otherwise perish. Certainly, Hikarian's inflection defies interpretation, and that very neutrality is exactly the reason for your relocation. Reassignment. The term lingers in the atmosphere like a grim verdict. Starting right away, you're shifted to the Level 8 research team. Your duties on the inferior decks are finished. One of his mechadendrites reaches out, presenting a data tablet. Here are your updated access credentials and lodging details. Your belongings will be relocated as you acquaint yourself with our procedures. I take the tablet in a daze, grappling with this surprising turn, not termination or penalty, but elevation. It feels overly serendipitous to rely on. And my existing cases? I inquire. They'll be handed off to different medics. Your talents serve us better in this sector. Hikarian pivots, evidently deeming the issue resolved. Head to Lab Delta once you've gone over the briefing docs. 27 individuals await your evaluation. And Trooper, I look toward the youthful Cadian, still secured on the diagnostic slab. Merely a trial case. His real wounds render him unfit for battlefield redeployment. He'll undergo routine handling. The stark declaration solidifies my fears. Vel was never intended for real care, just to measure my skills and principles, and I've now exposed both to an entity that regards mortal existence as yet another asset to optimize. I see, I state, even as I grasp only that I've swapped one ethical swamp for possibly a worse abyss. Splendid. Hikarian's vocal emitter produces a noise mimicking approval. Greetings to Project Lazarus, Medic Vale. In this domain, we don't just mend the injured. We reshape the lines dividing vitality, mortality, and fealty to the Emperor. Gazing into Trooper's pleading eyes, I comprehend that I haven't broken free from the classification machine. I've simply ascended deeper into it, where choices could turn even graver and repercussions vastly weightier. The Emperor safeguards, as the adage goes. Yet, from my growing awareness, his safeguarding can manifest in shapes more nightmarish than the perils it averts. Lab Delta unfolds as a sanitized horror show. I pause at the entrance, Access granted. Verification complete. Cursed by my triumph. The room extends ahead double the expanse of our biggest operating theater down below, but housing far fewer occupants. Specimens. I amend my thoughts. That's their designation in this place. 27 platforms laid out in tidy trios. Each supports a form hovering amid vitality and demise. A few retain clear human traits, while others, altered by operations and enhancements, have become entities that the average Imperial folk would scarcely identify as relatives. Medic Vale. A woman tech priestess draws near, her visage a sleek metallic curve bearing one optic sensor in place of oculars. I am Ingrathfell, designated as your induction mentor. Magos Hikarion has flagged specimens 11 to 15 for your prompt review. I trail her to the specified stations, fighting to uphold detached poise. The cases in this area display wounds well exceeding the usual severity from the underdecks. A female with her full bone system seemingly swapped for a metallic lattice, flesh pulled taut across the insertions. A male whose cranium lies exposed, harboring an odd apparatus where brain segments ought to reside. Yet another stripped of all extremities, trunk immersed in a nourishing fluid as cybernetic limbs emerge from exact incisions in his tissue. These represent the Lazarus procedures, I venture, keeping my delivery even. Advanced Stage 3 applications, Ingathel affirms. Specimens. Those who have advanced past simple neural rebuilding into the augmentation phase. Augmentation for which aim? Thiel's optic implant locks onto me with robotic accuracy. Conflict, medical shroud, it's always conflict. The Imperium demands troops capable of enduring the terrors of contemporary warfare. Traditional medical practices only mend. Project Lazarus re-engineers. I moved toward the closest patient, a male whose features were partly hidden by respiratory gear. The info panel revealed he had been a tank leader whose craft endured a devastating rupture. Flames scorched 80% of his form, while fragments cut through his vertebral column. By standard measures, he ought to have been granted the Emperor's grace through termination rites. But there he rests, respiring evenly, with brain waves showing up on the screens. His charred epidermis has been swapped for an artificial compound that imitates tissue, yet offers better defense from fire and collision. In place of the broken backbone, a cybernetic link now joins the parts, supposedly enabling renewed mobility. He'll be able to walk once more, I wondered, reviewing the displays. He'll achieve far more than that, Theo answered. Subject 14 will rejoin the fray with upgraded prowess. The artificial dermis endures heat up to 300 grain. The vertebral upgrade incorporates reflex-boosting circuits that boost response speed by 40%, and his psyche, his recollections, his core being. Thiel performs a motion that could pass for a shrug on a less artificial body. Mental processes stay intact when strategically useful. Superfluous mental frameworks get excised or dampened. Superfluous frameworks, I echoed deliberately. You refer to his sense of self? His sense of self is that of an Imperial guardsman. She sets me straight. Everything beyond that is irrelevant to his role. We strip away interfering factors, fear reactions, pain awareness, sentimental bonds, harrowing recollections. What's left is a sharper warrior. Dread unfurls in my torso like a venomous bloom. This surpasses the neural repair methods I pioneered. This isn't restoration. It's not even the direct shift to servitor conversion, which at least admits the person is being altered into another entity. This involves the intentional shattering of a person's essence, masked as therapeutic intervention. And the patient's agreement to this process, I inquired, anticipating the reply. Agreement is assumed via imperial duty. Thiel replies with the smooth delivery of one quoting scripture. The document you endorsed when entering the medical division contained clauses allowing your form and abilities to be employed as required for the Imperium's gain. Just as I did, as everyone does, the overlooked details of enlistment that nobody bothers with, since declining invites death for failing one's post. Understood, I forced out, shifting to inspect the following patient. This one seems more ordinary initially. A woman in guardsman attire, devoid of obvious modifications, resting calmly on her diagnostic slab. The vital stats display normal readings, although her brain patterns exhibit odd configurations. Subject 12 embodies our finest breakthrough, Thiel tells me, a hint of satisfaction threading her synthetic tone. No bodily upgrades were needed. Her alterations are purely cerebral. I reviewed her clinical record. Corporal Amarina Thex, from the 31st Elysian drop troops, seized by foes and exposed to extended torment prior to rescue by Imperial units. Profound mental damage resistant to routine therapies. What alterations were applied to her? I questioned, observing the absence of operation notes in her dossier. Precise memory deletion and sentiment adjustment, Thiel details. The initial case to receive the complete neural reconfiguration routine inspired by your own studies. My studies, my approaches to neural root rebuilding, twisted into a tool for willfully wiping out segments of personal essence. Nausea grips me. She endured intense ordeal, Thiel presses on, unaware of my unease. Standard care would have labeled her as unrecoverable, Omega class. Rather, we just excised the painful remembrances and linked feelings. She'll resume frontline service free from the mental weight of her ordeals and bereft of the maturity or fortitude that surviving such trials could foster. I noted silently. Thiel's optic whirs faintly as it centers on me. A wasteful strategy. Dealing with trauma via typical mental health methods yields only 63% effectiveness and demands an average of 76 days. Our technique achieves 97% results with just 14 days of recuperation. The stark math of productivity. This reveals the raw essence of Imperial healthcare, free from the soothing illusions we whisper to ourselves in the sublevels. We don't mend, we reclaim, we adapt. We guarantee every personnel asset delivers peak output, no matter the toll on the person. What exactly are my responsibilities in this place? I pull myself together, forcing a return to clinical composure. You will refine the neural remapping procedures drawing from your investigations, Thiel states. Mayos Hikarian is convinced that your methods lend themselves to crafting highly specific alterations, focusing on memory preservation, pinpoint skill boosts, loyalty strengthening, even mental domination. Put simply, the power to mold a person's mind to fit directives set by Imperial overseers. My thoughts drift to the countless guardsmen cycling through Turt Field Hospital every month. Which ones will qualify for these upgrades? How many will emerge diminished, stripped of core human elements in pursuit of operational superiority? Quote 29. I reply, stalling to absorb this disclosure and gauge how my approaches have been applied up to now. Quote 30. He adds, nodding toward the doorway. Quote 31. She exits, abandoning me amid the half-dismantled figures who straddle the line between patients and servitors, hybrids of a fresh, horrifying breed. I navigate the workstations, poring over diagnostic outputs and operation logs with mounting unease. Every case embodies a unique strategy tackling the core inquiry fueling Project Lazarus. To what extent can human components be substituted or eliminated without sacrificing battlefield utility? Subject 16's full limbic network has been rerouted, stripping away fear, affection, or bonds while retaining reasoning and fighting prowess. Subject 20 bears a prototype memory device that feeds strategic intel straight into her psyche. Subject 23 survives mainly as a cerebrum and truncated spine, the remainder supplanted by hardware, rendering him more armament than individual. They label this restoration. They deem this devotion to the Emperor. Finishing my inspection, I spot a locked portal at the lab's distant edge. Unlike the standard accesses, it sports extra safeguards and caution runes. The label proclaims Sati Quote 32. If these abominations mark Phase 3, what fresh nightmare awaits past that barrier? I consult the data tablet from Hikarian, inputting my fresh clearance credentials. Per the access protocols, Level 8 zones open to me, all save the Phase 4 vaults, which demand direct approval from the Magos. Shunning the barred entrance, I find a surveillance console and commence familiarizing myself with the setup sustaining these wretched beings in their liminal haze of flesh and mechanism. The controls surpass anything on the inferior decks, boasting intricate neural charts depicting live cerebral surges across diverse zones. Delving into the metrics, an oddity catches my eye. Subject 12, the female guardsman whose recollections were allegedly purged, displays hippocampal spikes akin to recall during dream phases. The operation notes indicate those neural sectors underwent deliberate adjustment. They ought to remain dormant. I scrutinize additional cases with cerebral tweaks. Comparable irregularities surface to differing extents. Subject 16, with his sentiment cores diverted, registers faint amygdala stirrings amid simulated combat audio. Subject 20, augmented by her strategy uplink, reveals atypical rhythms in self-identity sectors. The alterations are unraveling. Or, to phrase it better, the innate human mind resists the artificial constraints. I lean away from the console, thoughts swirling over the ramifications. Should the neural rewiring prove transient, if the psyche instinctively mends disrupted links, then Project Lazarus's framework harbors a fatal weakness. These individuals aren't evolving into sharper combatants. They're trapped in perpetual neural strife between engineered roles and inherent recovery drives. It's no surprise they dose them into stupor between sessions. Revival would unleash not merely bodily agony, but the profound dread of a self divided against its essence. Footfalls echo nearby, and I hastily revert the screen to routine oversight mode. A Mechanicus servitor glides forward, its motions eerily exact. Medici Vale, it intones. Report to briefing room 2. Accompany me. I obey, trailing the servitor along passages that turn ever more aseptic and automaton-infused as we delve further into level 8. These surfaces bear no trace of the old administrative structure's salvaged stone. Instead, they gleam with polished alloy and vibrate with active circuitry, structures that hint at massive Adeptus Mechanicus funding. The induction room looks like an operating suite, yet the devices are utterly foreign to my experience. In the middle looms a seat equipped with bindings, encircled by esoteric devices throbbing with power. Brain-link sensors dangle from flexible limbs overhead, their ends shining with a sinister intent. Quote 35, the servitor intones, motioning to the seat. Quote 36. A nauseating realization hits me. Quote 37. I inquire, lingering by the doorway. Quote 38, the servitor affirms. Quote 39. They're planning to apply their methods to probe my thoughts and mold them to fit their mold, purging any doubts or scruples in pursuit of productivity. Understood, I reply, thoughts whirling. And does Magos Hecarim supervise this directly? The Magos oversees every obedience ritual, the servitor verifies. Please sit. Prolonging increases the ritual's length and unease, so Hecarian observes remotely, if not in person. That offers a narrow window, provided I act fast. Naturally, I consent, stepping toward the seat with feigned assurance. But I'd like to confirm one detail first. My studies on brain root rebuilding emphasized prep steps to reduce rejection risks. Is that built into the obedience check? The servitor halts. Its basic mind weighs my query against its coded limits. After a delay, it replies. Specialist questions go to approved Mechanicus experts. I'm approved Mechanicus now, I point out, and it ties straight to my well-being in the robing process. I just want to confirm the hippocampus anchoring routine runs prior to core brain charting. Without it, we could trigger a total recall meltdown. Pure babble, of course, tech-flavored drivel to baffle a servitor without the background to judge. Yet I hold the assured poise of an expert chatting basics with an underling. Dang, the servitor's circuits seem to churn audibly. Quote 49. Quote 50. I amend fluidly, heading to the console instead of the seat. Quote 51. I indicate the screen displaying intricate brain charting routines I barely grasp. Quote 52. Following brief indecision, the servitor decides. Quote 53. The console lights up at my touch, unlocking the network. I haven't a clue how to run it right, but that's irrelevant. All I require is delay and a veneer of command. Quote 54. I whisper, hands gliding over the panels like an old hand. Truthfully, I'm frantically hunting for any escape aid. There, within the brain obedience routines, something called urgent shutdown routine. It seems a failsafe to halt the ritual instantly amid unforeseen issues. I can't pinpoint its full effect, but right now, any chaos helps. Quote 55. I state, approaching the robotic limbs over the seat. Quote 56. The servitor observes stoically as I feign inspection of the sensors angling near key switches. Quote 57, I proclaim shortly. Quote 58. Back at the console, I utter a quiet plea to the Emperor and trigger the urgent shutdown. The reaction strikes fast and chaotic. Sirens wail across the room. The brain-link limbs snap back into storage. Blast doors crash over the doorway, lights flipping to crimson alerts. Quote 59. A machine voice booms via the Vox. Quote 60. The servitor, bound to safety directives, heads straight for a concealed panic door that slides open in the bulkhead. Quote 61. It drones. Quote 62. Evacuation protocols. I ignore them, darting back to the console instead. Amid the chaos, I might have only moments to pull data before an override shuts down the crisis measures from afar. I summon the building's blueprint, committing the 8th floor's design to memory and pinpointing guard posts. Crucially, I spot the utility elevators. While the primary lifts demand clearance for every floor, these are built for repair crews and crisis extractions. The diagram indicates they link every tier, from the underground workshops up to the summit. Oddly, the structure's depths plunge much further than expected for a converted official site. Sublevel 8 is labeled as Core Experiment Isolation with 0 additional info. 8 stories skyward, 8 downward. The balance feels intentional, eerie. The screen flickers out as power gets severed remotely to this space. My window closes. I bolt for the crisis door the automaton took, squeezing past just as it locks. I'm in a tight service hallway now, illuminated by faint crimson backup lights. Far-off sirens wail, and I detect the humming grind of patrol machines activating. Speed is essential. From the layout etched in my mind, the closest utility elevator lies 2 turns forward, then a right into a side passage. I advance as swiftly as caution allows, straining to catch any chase noises. The passages align with my recalled plan, leading me soon to the elevator entrance. No frills here like the grand passenger ones. This is a bare-bones cargo platform for hauling gear and provisions. Its plain interface lists controls for the full span, from 8 down to 8. I pause. Escaping upward would be futile. Icarian's forces would scour those areas first. The hospital wards where I labored until this shift could offer brief refuge amid known colleagues. But discovery there is inevitable. That points to the sublevels. Uncharted ground, possibly riskier than the horrors I've glimpsed above, yet not the obvious spot for hunters seeking a fleeing healer. I select sublevel 1, figuring I can evaluate options once below. The platform shudders alive, plunging into the mysteries under Field Hospital Terseus. As it descends, I sort my racing ideas, piecing together a rudimentary strategy. I've uncovered far too many secrets to slip away unscathed. Project Lazarus twists core principles of imperial healing, even by the Imperium's harsh code. If news of these trials leaked to the broader Mechanicus or ecclesiarchy, scrutiny would follow, military benefits be damned. My slim chance rests on unearthing proof solid enough to earn safeguarding from powers beyond Hecaran control, or, at worst, a route off this forsaken world. The descent eases to a halt, panels parting to expose sublevel 1. The shift from above is stark right away. No clean labs or high-tech healing gear here. This deck looks like a warehouse, with broad halls flanked by locked crates and machinery stacks. Illumination is stark and functional, the atmosphere thick with lubricant and conserving agents. I exit warily, ears alert for motion. The area feels abandoned, cleared out by the alarm I set off. That buys me vital minutes to scout and plot ahead. Weaving through looming supply towers, I inspect labels and inventory slips. Hunting clues about deeper secrets. Most hold routine items, healing tools, automaton spares, wholesale drugs, standard fare unworthy of such veils. Then, an outlier catches my eye. A chilled locker marked with Mechanicus alerts and contagion icons. Its tag states, sample transport vessels. Phase 4 testing, cleared staff exclusively. Phase 4, the elusive endgame of Project Lazarus, locked behind clearances even Hecarian couldn't touch for me. I study the unit. It demands a precise entry sequence. No code on hand, but my medic badge could unlock the inventory log. I swipe my ident chip over the supply processor. Astonishingly, it grants entry and reveals the loadout. The details chill me to the core. Tyrannid tissue samples, extreme threat rating, gene strands extracted from Hive Fleet Kraken relics, greenlit by Inquisition Decree 775 Delta 93. Tyrannid genome extracts, the deadliest alien organisms the Imperium has ever faced. Versatile enough to thrive in diverse settings, wielding any armament or strategy. Yet here, someone's smuggling organic samples into a site, experimenting on human volunteers. The consequences are nightmarish beyond imagination. Could Project Lazarus be fusing Xenos' organic evolutions with human troops? This kind of technological blasphemy surpasses simple upgrades in performance or mental training. It veers into crafting monstrosities that defy the core tenets of Imperial creed. A faint clank of machinery jolts me back to my urgent situation. The alarms are rebooting, signaling my chance to act is narrowing fast. I must press on, uncover solid proof, and secure an exit route. Clutching that proof, I step into the maintenance elevator. Weighing my choices, floor 8, marked as core experiment isolation, probably hides the truths I'm after, though it poses the biggest threat. The floors in between could offer extra insights, with lighter defenses. A middle path, perhaps. Instead, I hit the control for sub-level 4. Midway down, the elevator plunges further, drawing me toward the core of the insanity hidden under Field Hospital Terte. The panels slide apart on sub-level 4, and I jerk back from the foul odor slamming into me. Rotting decay blended with lab chemicals mixes with an otherworldly, undefinable tang. The hallway ahead glows faintly, its sides fitted with broad viewing panels overlooking shadowed rooms. Creeping ahead with care, I near the closest panel. As I approach, crimson alert lights flicker on within the space, exposing what's inside. I swallow a sharp intake of dread. Inside sit lines of stasis pods, each cradling what looks initially like a person's form. But a nearer look uncovers ghastly alterations, arms stretched to absurd lengths, armored shells bursting through taut hides, added bends in limbs where none belong. Worst of all, visages locked in torment, implying these changes happen to aware victims. The label next to the panel states, quote 63. These aren't triumphs ready for combat use. They're the rejects kept for analysis, the poor individuals whose forms resisted the horrific tweaks imposed on them. I shift to the following panel. There, the pods house figures more akin to humans, yet each displays understated changes to their frame. Boosted muscles that twitch oddly under ashen skin, fortified skeletons showing through see-through tissue, detection features altered for unclear reasons. Quote 64. The label declares, so these serve as the models for the augmentations I spotted on sub-level 8. Panel by panel, fresh terrors unfold, a full catalog of body alterations, from minor brain pathway adjustments to hideous bodily shifts that render the occupants scarcely human anymore. Certain changes draw from engineering concepts, merging machines with meat in innovative fashions. Others pull from life forms alien to our kind. And the most unsettling ones echo traits I've noted in secret footage of tyrannid creatures. At the passage's close looms a stoutly fortified portal, etched with hazard icons and an intricate lock mechanism. The inscription overhead says, quote 65. Beyond that barrier, things yet breathe, yet stir. After witnessing the preserved horrors in those pods, I'm uncertain about facing the animated counterparts. A sharp crackle bursts from the Vox unit, halting me cold. All staff alert, intones the synthetic tone of Magos biologist Hikarion. Intrusion detected on sub-level 8. One test entity missing. Medicaid Karen Vale has broken isolation measures and must be deemed erratic and hazardous. If spotted, restrain without killing. His brain framework remains essential whole, not escaped, not vanished. Missing entity, a test subject, not a peer. I wasn't placed as a healer on sub-level 8 by design. I was slated as the subsequent test case. My brain framework deemed especially useful from my studies. The broadcast persists. Crisis measures lifted. Resume routine functions. Patrol drones will sweep floor by floor, block all passages across levels. The maintenance elevators face imminent lockdown. To gather proof and flee, speed is essential. But which way? Climbing up invites clashes with patrols sweeping downward from above. Dropping lower edges me nearer to the main experiments running on sub-level 8. As I deliberate, another noise drifts in, from past the sturdy barrier. From the containment chamber emerges a rasping, skittering sound that sends chills racing up my spine. A massive entity stirs inside, one that has no place in an Imperial outpost. Fate decides for me in that instant. No matter the nightmares lurking below, they pale against the threat clawing its way from the sealed room. I dash back toward the maintenance elevator, slamming the control for sub-level 8 in frantic urgency. Just as the panels seal shut, I spot the chamber's barrier at the hallway's far end, warping and straining under immense pressure from the other side. Moments later, the car plunges downward, pulling me deeper into Project Lazarus's core, where I dread the true scope of Hicarian's technological abomination lies in wait. Sub-level 8 reveals itself through utter quietude. The elevator panels ease open to no blaring sirens or armed guards, only a hush so profound it presses against me like a physical weight. The atmosphere down here feels chillier, scrubbed and purified to erase any hint of the medical ward overhead or the terrors of the floors in between. I venture carefully into a round antechamber ringed with console arrays and surveillance gear. Its walls arc smoothly, crafted not from the standard modular sheets of Imperial builds, but from an enigmatic, faintly shimmering substance I can't quite place. The result is a faint vertigo, as though the room's proportions waver depending on your vantage. In the middle rises a round dais encircled by a halo of dimly pulsing glyphs. Past that looms a solitary grand portal etched with the emblem of the Ordo Xenos from the Imperial Inquisition. That inquisitorial mark solidifies my darkest suspicions. This transcends illicit trials or standard tech priesthood violations. It bears approval from the Imperium's most elite and shadowed overlords. I edge toward the closest console, unsure if my fresh clearance will unlock it. Astonishingly, the display flickers to life under my fingers, acknowledging the embedded ID implant issued to all Medicae staff at induction. Authentication complete, Medicae Karen Vale acknowledged. Access to Project Lazarus, Phase 4 approved. Magos Biology's Hicarian has enrolled you in the permitted staff directory. Enter the Genesis chamber. Whether my flight hasn't hit the logs yet or this is a cunning snare doesn't matter. I possess a narrow opportunity to uncover truths before Hicarian's minions track me down. The interface presents options for experiment records, test subject files, and layout diagrams. I select the experiment records initially, eager to grasp Project Lazarus's essence. The opening log dates back 3 years, aligning with the Tyranid invasion's onset in the Varthexis sector. Sample procurement achieved. Fragments of the splinter hive secured and quarantined by Ordo Xenos assault team. Core adaptation organ bundle retrieved whole, initiating dissection of synapsid organism brain patterns. Later logs trace an escalating study of Tyranid biological flexibility, zeroing in on the hive mind's power to command vast swarms via neural links. Half a year on, mentions of human merging surface. Trials on human brain interfacing yield encouraging results. Test groups A1 to A7 exhibit moderate tolerance for synapse implantations, immune backlash suppressed via inhibitors and warp barrier containment. Awareness preservation at 43% adequate for core performance review. Magos Hicarian greenlights progression to comprehensive human experiments. The records delve deeper into jargon, outlining a methodical effort to weave Tyranid synapse matter into human brain frameworks. The objective sharpens, to forge warriors who retain personal awareness yet move with the collective drive and versatility of a Tyranid swarm. An ideal force. Fighters who act autonomously but battle in flawless sync like one vast entity. Units that evolve on the fly amid combat, building defenses against foe armaments and strategies in mere hours, not eons. And orchestrating it all, a directing consciousness to supplant the Tyranid over mind. A human brainweb advanced enough to oversee the neural bonds, yet devoted to the Imperium. My brainweb. My work on synapse rebuilding, twisted to birth a human overmind. The latest log from only yesterday freezes my blood. Prime subject secured. Brain structure perfect for synapse hub integration. Operation set for 100 hours. With integration success, Phase 4 endgame tests begin. First Genesis Legion rollout projected in 6 months. I wasn't destined to lead the vital studies. I was fated to embody them, the central hub in a web of high Imperial troops. Before the full weight of this dreadful discovery sinks in, the enormous door to the interrogation chamber starts to grind open. I scramble behind a cluster of machinery, peering out as Magos biologist Hikarian steps into view, flanked by someone clad in the signature gear of an Ordo Xenos Inquisitor. The incident is regrettable yet containable, Hikarian's augmented tones declare to his ally. Medicae Vale must stay confined here. His brain framework holds immense worth for our initiative. Your defensive measures have fallen short, the Inquisitor counters, his words warped through the helmet's vocal filters. Should details of Project Lazarus leak outside these walls, not even my rank could shield us from backlash by the stricter elements in the organization. The danger stays low, Hikarian counters firmly. Vale grasps just pieces of the puzzle. Lacking entry to the Genesis chamber proper, he can't grasp the entirety of our efforts. They head for the elevator I used to enter, oblivious to my hidden spot. As they go by, I steal looks at the expanse past the huge portal, a sprawling, shadowy hall, overseen by a core fixture that blends surgical device with an eerie extraterrestrial bloom encircling it. Lines of human-like shapes hover in fluid-filled pods, linked to the heart by shimmering vines throbbing with bizarre vitality. Once the portal seals after the officials leave, I step out from cover and edge toward the Genesis chamber's access. The panel hangs ajar, jammed from fully shutting by either a glitch or intentional meddling from the Inquisitor on his way out. I pause at the edge, aware that whatever awaits inside could demolish whatever loyalty I still hold for the Imperium I've dedicated myself to. Yet information is my sole tool at this point, my best shot at fleeing with proof substantial enough to seek sanctuary from a figure powerful enough to halt this monstrosity. I squeeze past the opening into the Genesis chamber. The area inside challenges simple understanding. What seemed like one room from afar turns out to be an expansive network plunging down in layered circles, akin to a flipped coliseum or the guts of a colossal insect nest. Every level cradles scores of containment pods with human bodies at differing phases of mutation. The key edifice climbs from the deepest base, a warped tower fusing organic and cybernetic parts that stretches nearly to the distant roof overhead. In its midst, half hidden by throbbing veils, I spot an entity like a gigantic cerebrum, dwarfing any mortal brain yet etched with the clear folds of neural matter. This marks the culmination of Project Lazarus, not improved warriors bolstering the Imperium, but a fresh breed of fused entities, part human, part tyrannid, governed by a hub consciousness cultivated from gathered brain matter. Stirring pulls my focus to the closest pod. The occupant inside looks mostly like a person at first glance, though with faint shifts in its frame, swivels its gaze to follow me. Its eyes snap wide, showing irises that narrow like a lizard's, or worse, that of a tyrannid creature. It knows who I am. Even more chilling, it appears alert, mindful of its plight and environment. These aren't brainless drones or battle machines. They're sentient entities locked in a horrific metamorphosis. The form lifts a palm toward the barrier between us. Its digits have stretched, extra knuckles added, flesh toughened into a shell-like sheath. Using a pointed claw, it scratches words onto the inner surface. H-E-L-P-U-S. Further motion grabs my notice. Across the hall, additional specimens rouse, angling toward me, extending limbs in mid-change. A few attempt words, lips forming shapes under life support masks. Others drum on their pod walls, building a swelling rhythm that reverberates across the enormous void. They had been expectant. In some way, they sensed an outsider would arrive eventually, unlinked to the scheme, one who could view them as sufferers, not experiments, one who might intervene. But how? I'm just a single healer facing the united might of the Mechanicus and Inquisition. No arms, no rank, no way to liberate these doomed individuals, most of whom might be past redemption regardless if I managed to unseal them. That's when a key detail about the central fixture hits me. The throbbing, mind-resembling blob at its heart links to every pod via vines conveying the identical nerve liquid noted in the study records. It serves as the command nexus for the whole setup, the synthetic swarm intellect set to guide the Genesis Legion, and it's still unfinished. Per the records, it needs merging with my brain framework. Absent that last piece, the network shows weakness. The notion crystallizes with grim precision. I could dismantle it not through brute strength, which I don't possess, but via sabotage. I introduce a critical vulnerability into the synaptic framework, triggering a chain reaction that will overrun the whole apparatus. Among my implants are crisis boosters meant to sustain performance amid prolonged operations. A specific agent, a potent enhancer of neural transmitters, would wreak havoc if unleashed into the fragile equilibrium of the synaptic solution. It would ignite a rampant surge of brain signals, effectively plunging the framework into a colossal convulsion. I settle on my course. Hurrying to the main console, I leverage my healer privileges to breach the controls. Just as anticipated, routine oversight tools remain open without elite clearance. I summon the framework overview, verifying my hunch regarding the core hub's weakness. The captives observe intently. A few inch nearer to their enclosure walls, while others gesture wildly in ways I can't quite decipher. They detect an impending shift, even if its nature eludes them. I extract the booster syringe from my healer pouch, adapting its dispenser to link with the framework's service inlet. Upon entry into the primary hub, the agent will propagate across the setup through the neural links. An alert siren erupts abruptly across the room. The overview screen lights up with crimson alerts, intrusion without clearance spotted, defense measures activating, isolation protocols starting. They've pinpointed me, or at minimum sensed my intrusion. I possess mere moments, maybe instants, prior to the guard's arrival. In frantic urgency, I finalize the link-up between the syringe and the service inlet. I pause just an instant before unleashing the entire load of the neural agent into the framework. The impact hits at once, spectacularly so. The cerebrum-resembling core of the assembly spasms fiercely, its enclosing layers throbbing faster and faster. The neural solution within the linking filaments shifts hue, turning from soft azure to furious violet as the agent disperses through the space. The captives inside the holding vats respond to the pollution. Certain ones spasm in clear agony. Others stay unnervingly motionless, their eerie slit eyes fixed as their destiny plays out. The one that scrawled on the pane flattens its hand against it, holding my gaze. Its visage, midway through alteration, defies easy interpretation. Yet I perceive a hint of thankfulness amid the torment. Sirens build to a fever pitch as the agent hits peak levels in the framework. The overview pulses with more dire cautions. Neural array unraveling, neural chain collapse approaching, crisis isolation breaking down. Advise instant withdrawal and site purification. Upper-level portals burst wide as enforcers flood in. Insexile soldiers swarm inside, arms at the ready, cybernetic gazes sweeping for dangers. Magos Hecarim advances through their ranks, his mechadendrites twisting in clear distress. Veil, his voice broadcaster thunders over the area. What have you wrought? What you ought to have wrought, I retort, halted this horror before it escaped Varthaxis. You grasp nothing, Hecarim snarls, the feeling startling from his augmented tone. This offered mankind's redemption, the sole bulwark against the tyrannid menace. Becoming what we dread is no redemption, I counter. It's capitulation. The primary assembly starts emitting a shrill wail as the neural surge quickens. Vats across the room fracture as their inhabitants writhe with mounting fury. Neural solution erupts from bursting junctions, hissing on contact with bare alloys. Eliminate him, the Inquisitor orders from the threshold. Quell the pollution. The initiative can still be reclaimed with swift action. Soldiers unleash blasts, energy bolts crackling past me in the atmosphere. I hurl myself behind the console, relying on its scant shelter against the opening barrage. Yet I realize flight is impossible. The ruin I've inflicted on the setup is devastating, though not entirely final. Should they seize me intact, they could exploit my brain design to reconstruct what I've demolished. There's just one path to guarantee Project Lazarus perishes here. I grasp my healer pouch anew, withdrawing the last crisis syringe. This holds an entirely distinct substance, a rapid poison reserved for humane endings of hopeless cases. The captive that marked the pain observes as I ready the syringe. It dips its head once, an oddly mortal motion from its ever more foreign features. For whatever it means, I murmur, despite the barrier muffling my words. I'm regretful I can't rescue you, or any of you. Blasts ramp up near my spot. The primary assembly commences crumbling beneath the ultimate pressure of the neural surge. Vats explode one after another around the room, unleashing partially altered captives and tainted neural solution in a poisonous deluge. Blood spills in the turmoil. Amid the frenzy, I jam the injector against my throat and activate it. The venom acts fast, crafted for a swift, painless demise. As my awareness starts to dim, I spot Hicarian lunging in my direction, his cybernetic arms driving him across the room at superhuman velocity. It's futile now. My brain implants will turn worthless to him in mere moments. The final sight, before oblivion engulfs me, is the core neural mass bursting apart in a gush of gore and liquid, its throbs halting as the overload hits its breaking point. Project Lazarus perishes alongside me. In that ultimate flicker of thought, an odd calm descends upon me. I've fallen short so often in my devotion to the Imperium, short in mending the afflicted I tended, short in defying the regime that stripped people down to mere assets, short in challenging the atrocities committed under the Emperor's banner. Yet, with this single deed, I might have triumphed at last. I could have halted a monstrosity that would have chipped away even more at the shreds of human essence still clinging to the Imperium of man. The Emperor might not shield us from our own flaws, but occasionally we can safeguard humanity against those who pretend to champion its cause. As my senses dissolve, I ponder whether any remnant of Karen Vale will linger to face judgment at the Golden Throne, or if, like countless souls I once oversaw, I'll just vanish, filed away and utilized, yet another asset burned through in the unending machinery of conflict. The void swallows me whole, bringing not terror, but one last bold claim to the humanness that Project Lazarus aimed to surpass. I select this conclusion not for the Emperor, not for the Imperium, but to cling to our shared mortality in a universe that has lost sight of its value.